Asaf, terrific presentation was pretty much all what I prepared to talk about today, but I'm going to improvise. It's kind of weird to talk about water scarcity when you have those piles of snow here, but in Israel, and as you can easily detect by my accent, was born and raised in Israel. In Israel, water conservation is a way of living. This is how we've been brought up. And I travel frequently to Israel for work, but in the summer I have the pleasure of spending, the fortune and the pleasure of spending extended period of time with my daughter, usually a month. And it was a few summers ago that we came back from Israel, and each time I started to notice this. Each time I turn on the water in the kitchen sink, my daughter sprinted me, she was in kindergarten at the time, and turned it off. It happened a few times, and finally asked her what's going on. and she told me we have to conserve. And this is when it dawned on me. In Israel, in the summer, we all over Israel, in ads, in billboards, in the media, everybody are talking about water conservation. And it's such a part of the way we live. This is part of our cultural. And now, really, not just in Israel. While there's affluent of water here, there are regions in the world and here in the U.S. that have droughts. And the World Economic Forum declared water as one of the highest risk in its 9th global risk report. As Asaf mentioned, 20% of the world is experiencing water shortage today, but in 50 years from now, 50% of the world will be experiencing water shortage. From California to India to Brazil, droughts are now part of our reality. And we're only now starting to feel the impact. Water is life. We cannot live without water. Water is energy. We cannot produce energy without water. And water is food. 80% of the global water is being used for agriculture. California, which is the number one agriculture producer here in the U.S., accounts for 50% of the nation vegetables and fruits, is now experiencing drought. And half a million of acres are expected to remain idle this year because of water shortage. The impact will be in the billions of dollars to the economy of California. The world population is expected to reach 9 billion by 2050, which is nice. The problem is that farmers will be tasked with the very difficult task of providing food in 70% more than what is provided today. The risk of hunger will be reaching 1 billion people by 2050. And the advances in technology is the most powerful resource we can provide to address the food-water scarcity. The International Food Policy Research Institute, in a recent report that just published in January, called for advocating for utilizing technologies to address the declining yield of various food crops. One of the companies I work with is Akaima, is developer of advanced seed technology that, with non-GMO technology, they're able to provide varieties of food crop and energy with higher yield and resistance to severe weather and water shortage. Drip irrigation that was mentioned here, and you'll be hearing from one of the world leaders, the Israeli company Netafim in drip irrigation. Actually, Israel is recognized both by the OECD and the UN as a leader in drip irrigation technologies. And you need clean water for food, and you will be hearing today from Atlantium, from Phyllis, about clean water for food and the technologies that are available today. And while water supply is declining, there's also the issue of waste. And Asaf was talking about the leaking aging pipes. And we saw the numbers in London, but here in the US, every day, due to water loss, 7 billion gallons are being lost every day here in the US. There's also the issue of waste of agriculture, of food. There's about 1/3 of the food that is being consumed, being produced for human, is being wasted just between farm to fork. And I believe it was Warren Buffett who said that only when the tide goes out do you see who's been swimming naked. And the state's drought is exposing the importance of water in agriculture, in energy production, in manufacturing, residential, the whole ecosystem. And it's also beginning to highlight what needs to be changed. And Asaf was talking about the value of water. This is one part of very, very important. How do we value water? And also the importance of water stewardship. So in California, the governor of California declared a state of emergency, has been urging the citizens to conserve and reduce their water consumption by 20%. There's also will be a cut of water that's being supplied to 29 irrigation regions. At the same time, California released just recently the California Water Action Plan. Part of this plan is a budget of $618 million for water efficiency projects. Texas, the same thing. Back in November of last year, the Water Infrastructure Fund was approved with $2 billion that will be devoted to water efficiency projects. So there are actions that needs to be taken both by the business community, policymakers, and entrepreneurs. And the is the key. While businesses that are operating in water-stressed regions needs to adapt their business plan to have integrated water conservations and water energy nexus, they also need to take into account the innovation and implementing the technology solutions that are available today and partner with technology partners that can provide those solutions. And this is the time to take leadership, and leadership has to be shown both by the public sector, by the state, by the water utilities, by the federal government, but it also by the private sector. If you look at the water-intensive companies, the world beverage companies, Coca-Cola, Nestle, or you look at the mining companies, these are all heavy intensive water industries. Just a friction of saving, even just 1% by those companies that are billion-dollar enterprise can lead to a tremendous impact. And the business for water tech, I believe that was pretty much laid out. It's pretty clear. And that brings me back to Israel. So we saw Moses hitting the rock, but we used to say that Moses was a really bad navigator, taking us to this arid land with no natural resources. We cannot say that anymore with the discoveries of natural gas just recently. But the fact is that those over 60 years that took from the inception of Israel to the date of the discoveries of natural gas really brought us to necessity being the mother of invention. It's part of the Israeli culture. We always have to find a way to make it work. And this is how we came up with the water tech solutions. And Israel being the Silicon Valley of water technologies, we heard from Asaf about the reuse of close to 80% of agriculture of our reused effluents for agriculture. But the fact is that Israel maintained the same water consumption with those solutions and conservations since 1964 till today, despite the growing population and the growing agriculture needs. And just Asaf was talking about new tech, and this is really an important point because really when you look at it, if you look at the Israeli water industry and how it's been developed and how it's been growing, you see this really close tie between the private sector and the public sector. You see the government playing a very important role in growing this industry together with entrepreneurs. New Tech has really set a goal of doing everything smart. So they're looking to advance technologies that are smart efficiency, smart big data. And what the result is, and helping attracting investors to those companies in Israel, helping them to export, helping them to implement it. The result is that Israel today is positioned in a place where, yes, it's been beneficial for Israel for sure, but Israel today and the innovation coming out of Israel, companies like Atlantium, when they come here to the US, and when you listen to Phyllis that will be speaking shortly, just keep in mind, this is a win-win situation. This is where I take great pride in what I do, and my job is working with Israeli companies that are looking to do business here and work with the government and work with the private sector here and help them come here. And this is really when you see the innovation that's been developed in Israel having the opportunity to help address global issues and also here in the US. So thank you so much. I kept it short. Thank you.